Tekie Geek President Mike Bloomfield joins this week to break down a whole bunch of HP news ranging from new programs to new hardware, plus a special guest interview with Abe Garver from Focus Investment Banking on the current economic climate and its impact on the M&A market. It's ChannelPro Weekly number 237, Casper, the Friendly Editor. Hello and welcome to ChannelPro Weekly, episode 237. My name is Matt Whitlock, technology editor, online director, and your host of this fine show for people like you, the VARs, the IT integrators, the managed services providers, the business-to-business computer builder people. That sounds like you, right? You do something along those lines. Usually it's with technology and usually it's with other businesses. If that kind of sounds like you, then you are in the right place, and we welcome you one and all. Joining me this week and most weeks is the man of the hour, the guy who keeps, I usually say the trains running on time, but he gets to fly again because, you know, the world is allowing for lots and lots of air travel again. So the guy who keeps the planes on time. Please welcome executive editor Rich Freeman. Welcome, Rich.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. And I want to make it clear to the audience, I am not the guy responsible for the flight delays you've experienced in the last 6 months. Let's be clear on that, because the planes have not been on time, but it's not my fault.
I was going to say you're not doing a very good job at your other job of keeping airlines running on time. So I'm glad to know that it's not exactly you. So that's not what you do, but that's okay. Hopefully they can get all that figured out. Rich, we got a lot to talk about, but I want to bring our guest in right away before we start talking about events, because he might have something he wants to share on that particular topic. So I'm very, very excited to say that we've got an awesome guest today. He hasn't been on in a while, but I'm glad that we got him back. Although we've seen him recently because he was at one of our events earlier in the year on stage, and he is just an awesome, funny, super duper duper guy. He is the president of a managed service provider in Staten Island, New York, called Tekie Geek. He's been published in numerous IT magazines, including ChannelPro, and has been recognized 3 times by Amazon as a best-selling author. Please welcome back to the show, Mike Bloomfield. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. It's Mike Bloomfield, or like other people would like to call me, Mike Bloomberg. I do accept that as well. Thank you for having me. I would have loved to have been here many of times, but you didn't invite me for a long time, so I guess you don't really like me that much.
Well, we'll have to blame Rich, because he's the one who schedules and keeps things on time, so that's his fault.
A couple of people must have canceled, and now here I am. The C Squad's back, but I'm glad to be here, and I have not been on a plane in years before COVID, so I have not had to experience the delays.
Well, awesome, and I apologize for getting the name wrong. It does say Bloomfield here. I'm just not with it this morning or something like that. I don't know. My mouth is not working, or it's disconnected to my brain. But it is a pleasure to have you here. We're gonna let you talk a little bit more about yourself here in a second. But first, Rich, I want to say, where the hell are you anyway?
I'm in Palo Alto, California, whereas anyone who, the folks who are watching on video can tell, everything is really, really bright, because I am really, really bright on camera right now.
It's almost angelic. It's majestic, like it's shining down on you from above. And what are you doing out there, Rich?
Well, I have been attending the HP Amplify Executive Forum. So this is the first time that HP has done an in-person event since 2019, since before the pandemic. And I guess I didn't get a chance to ask. I guess they didn't quite feel ready to do the full-blown partner event, get a few thousand people in a big room somewhere. And so they did a smaller thing for a more elite kind of crowd of their partners, and invited some folks from the media. And I've been there most of this week.
Well, awesome. Well, I hope that probably makes sense, because we've got a lot of HP news we're going to be talking about later on in the show. So look at that. It all kind of makes sense. The world operates how you would expect it would, at least in this particular case. Mike, like I said, it's a pleasure to have you back. Why don't we, for people who maybe missed the episode you were on long ago, why don't you tell people a little bit more about you and a little bit more about Tekie Geek?
Sure. So Mike Bloomfield, I'm the president geek of Tekie Geek. We brand ourselves as the IT superhero, so we take branding very important to us. We've been in business now. January will be 10 years, so looking forward to celebrating 10 years in business. We are a team of 13 here. And again, branding is key. We just released some new business cards, and they're based on a card game called Marvel Champions. So every one of our team members has their alter ego, which is us, and then we have our hero side. I'm Tekie Man. Apparently, if you are on video and you see the background, you could tell I have a little obsession with pop culture and Marvel. And Spider-Man might be my favorite superhero. So I am Tekie Man, and happy to be here again.
Well, and that is an impressive assortment of characters behind you. Tell us a little bit about some of those.
Yeah, so I originally we started the business and we were based out of my house, and I realized I needed a place to have statues and collectibles that my wife didn't really see every day and yell at me. So that's why we got the office space. But no, it's not really. But yeah, I collect a lot of 1/6 scale figures. They're known as hot toys, as well as statues, and they are usually anywhere from a 1/3 to a 1/4 scale. Yeah, we have a life-size Spider-Man in the conference room. And we actually just signed the lease, and we're taking the second floor of the building that we're in October, because I ran out of room and I need more room space for toys. So yes, my background will be getting an upgrade in the next couple of months. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do it, but going to have a lot more toys. Sideshow.com is where I get all my collectibles, and if you like pop culture, Marvel, Star Wars, check it out. And once the addiction starts, I do apologize. It will become an addiction.
I was gonna say it's not just Marvel back there, but you got Star Wars too.
Yes, I collect. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. You know, the saga is probably my favorite, but I also love the Marvel. How could you not? So I primarily collect Marvel Universe and Star Wars. Not a huge. I enjoy DC, but I'm not a huge DC fan. So when it comes to the collectibles, it's usually Marvel, Star Wars, and I got some Rick and Morty as up there as well. I don't know if anyone's watched that show, but great show. I got Iron Man's heart behind me. That was actually sent to me by Crypto Stopper, so thank you to them. But yeah, I love collectibles.
That's awesome. Very, very neat stuff. It's a cool looking collection. Now, Rich, are you a DC guy or are you a Marvel guy?
Flip a coin. I don't know. I'm not a big comic book guy, but I would probably say Marvel. I mean, based on the characters I know, like I like Iron Man, you know, that the movies anyway, and so on and so forth. So that's probably where I line up.
Excellent. Well, we might have a good I might have a good Marvel versus DC discussion later on. I think I've got an idea for a game we might play later. We'll just have to have everybody stay tuned for that to see what might come of that. Rich, we've got a lot to get to and not a whole lot of time, so I'm going to kind of barrel forward. And we'll send people over to episode 143 to learn a little bit more about Mike, because we talked a little bit more about his background and kind of how he got going and a little bit more there. So why don't you folks go and check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about Mike, and we'll hook you up with some links later on where you might be able to get in touch with him as well. But Rich, before we do that, we're gonna be gone next week. And so that means there won't be a show next week. We got our own event. Why don't we tell people about what's coming? And we got something new that we're going to be doing for the 2 remaining shows. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Now, before I do that, Matt, I will point out that you have just made the exact mistake that everybody at ChannelPro, myself included, has been making all week. We're not actually doing this event next week. It's the week after next week. All week long, everyone on ChannelPro is like, hey, see you next week in DC. And no, we're not actually going to DC next week. We're going to go right after Labor Day. So the event we're talking about takes place near Dulles Airport in the Washington, D.C. area, September 7th and 8th. It's the latest of our 6th this year ChannelPro SMB Forum events. The last is going to be in November in Southern California. So if you're listening from that part of the world, we hope to see you there. And if you're anywhere in the Eastern Seaboard, join us in DC for that event as well. We're going to be talking about cybersecurity and making money with Microsoft Azure, and we're going to be playing another round of the employee recruitment dating game that Mike helped us launch back in March at the first event we did in the year. We're going to be talking about M&A strategy again, all sorts of stuff that's very top of mind for you, presented to you in a really engaging, entertaining, fun kind of way. And there's a great expo hall and great food and so on. And then The thing that is new for the DC show, and we'll do this again in Los Angeles in November, is we have signed an agreement. We're partnering with Steve Alexander of an organization called MSP Ignite. Steve is a longtime, well-known, highly respected consultant to MSPs. He also operates peer groups, and he's going to be doing a kind of quasi-peer group meeting on the pre-day before our remaining two events this year. And so some of the folks there will actually be people he already has in his peer groups. But if you enroll and you want to see what it's like to be a part of that peer group, or even just be in a peer group for a day and exchange insights and discuss business challenges with peers in the community, you can do that. So the main day is September 8th. The pre-day is September 7th, and it'll be September 7th when Steve is doing that peer group.
Yes, you are right. And I am one of the people here that has been doing that all week long, thinking that our show is next week. And I don't know why I can't get it through my head that it's September 7th and 8th, folks. That's so not next week, but the week after that. So make sure that you go and check that out. The peer group thing sounds really interesting. Of course, Dell will also be still doing their pre-day event, I believe, as well. Is that right, Rich?
I think that's right. Yep.
Yeah, so lots of really great stuff to come and check out, and I'll just turn it over to Mike because he's been to our events. Tell people what they should expect.
Yeah, look, I want to ask this question because I love your events, and I try to go every time you have an event close to me. As I said, I haven't been on a plane in a long time, and I have two little kids, and as a business owner, it's hard to leave. You know, I have a team of 13, and you're a small group, but anytime there's a local event, I make it my business to get out there. And I don't understand. I was just at a Kaseya Connect local IT thing they did here in New Jersey. I always see the same people. I never see any of my competitors from Staten Island out these events. And I don't understand why. As a business owner, make time, get out, be involved in the community. You guys give great information. It's great to meet with the vendors, great, the breakouts, the pre-day. And why is it? Why are you finding that, business owners aren't coming to these things? Why do you always see pretty much the same people?
It is so true. Everybody in this business, every MSP, every solution provider VAR out there, if they're running a successful business, they are incredibly busy, and there's stuff kind of coming at them every day, like fires to put out. And I think it feels like it's hard to make that time to step away from the business for a day, which is really all we're kind of talking about here, a day or a day and a half, and attend an event. And so I understand, I sympathize with people who are like, well, I would maybe like to do that, but I don't really feel like I can do that. But I know for a fact that the people who do go, who make that time, this is how they make connections. They network, they meet people, they meet peers, they meet vendors, they get ideas. This is one of those key things to growing your business. Basically, is you've got to be bringing in information from news sources, learning new things all the time, and going to events, not just ours, is really one of the best ways to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like I said, January will be 10 years. How we grew our business is being involved in the local community, but also being involved in the channel. We advertise and brand ourselves as those IT superheroes and those experts. And how do I remain an expert? I have to be out. I have to learn more. I have to see what's coming through the industry. I want to know how to sell. I want to know to be able to, when I go and sit with my existing clients and prospects, here's why you should choose me. And here's what I know versus here's where my competitors who sit stale and are trying to still sell you services that they learned about 5 to 10 years ago. So if my advice to anyone listening to this, make it your business, get out. Even if it's a day, I know we all start somewhere. I started as a one-man MSP. I understand how hard it is to get out. You have to make the leap and the jump because that's the only way you're going to do it. And it's going to do nothing but benefit you. And Rich, I hope you're feeling well because you're starting to look like Casper. But other than that, things are great.
Yeah, I know it's true. It is. I guess just time of day. It is getting brighter in here, folks. You are not going to be able to see me at all by the end of this podcast.
Oh, that's funny stuff. That's funny stuff. Well, and great advice, Mike. Thank you for sharing that with folks. I 100% agree with you. It is really, really important to get out and get to these events like ours and network, and meet your peers, because you're gonna, as you said, you're going to learn a lot, not only from the event, as long as you're going to a good event like ours, but you're going to learn a lot from the peers that you meet as well. And those are the relationships that make a difference. So great advice. So excited you're here, because I'm also excited because you're going to chime in on a whole bunch of news that we got to talk about. For example, we've got, well, lots of HP news. Rich is at an HP event. There's a lot of news coming out of it. Surprise, surprise. So we'll get your thoughts on some of that stuff. We're also going to talk quick about ConnectWise. They've got a little quick mention here in the notes, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But Rich, why don't we just go ahead and dive in, because I'm excited to learn about some of the things that you are learning at the HP show. For example, they've unveiled a ink replenishment program that sounds new. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it is both new and not new. So this that we're talking about the small business version of HP's Instant Ink program. Now, I remember the last time I attended an in-person HP event, they were talking nonstop about Instant Ink. This was, at that time, I think, still a relatively young program, and it's basically a subscription service you can sign on to if you have an HP printer, and they're going to kind of keep an eye on ink levels or toner levels, and when you're getting low, they just automatically ship you a replacement. You put the old cartridge in the box and ship it back, and I mean, a reasonable fee, and all that is just taken care of. It's one less thing for you to worry about. Now, this is it was up until very recently essentially a consumer-oriented service. There are plenty of small businesses, I'm sure, that have been using it, but it really, hasn't been designed for the business community. So now they are introducing a small business version of Instant Ink. It's going to enable you to enjoy those Instant Ink services I was just talking about for multiple printers, multiple locations, all one bill, basically. If you are a partner, and I don't know a lot about the details on this, but I mean, there is a sign-on bonus. There's shared margin there. This is recurring revenue, and you collect a piece of that as an HP partner. This was one of the things that HP kind of emphasized, is that for the people out there who are in a hardware focused kind of business but are interested in getting into services, this is actually a very easy way to do that, a first step into the services world, and it's certainly part of a journey HP is on to get more into services. And then if you are in a services first kind, if you're an MSP, here's a way to add some recurring revenue around hardware sales, which is not always something that's easy to do. And so it's attractive that way. One interesting fact that HP shared yesterday is that their net promoter score among customers who get ink through the Instant Ink program, they get ink via subscription, is anywhere from 20 to 40 points higher than for other customers out there. So this is a very customer-pleasing service. And some of that, if you're offering it to your customers, is going to rub off on you as well. And then they also introduced some new partners specifically for the SMB market, the new LaserJet Pro 3000 series and 4000 series. 3000 series partners are for organizations with up to 7 people. The 4000 series is like for more up to 10 people. You can use those. They are sort of, set up to go with this new Instant Ink for small business, as well as the HP Plus program, which wraps some additional benefits around those devices. The small business plans for Instant Ink start at $7.99 a month. And go up substantially from there. The $7.99 a month plan is built around a roughly 200-page a month kind of workload, so you can kind of gauge from there, how many of your customers that will or won't make sense for. But there's a whole series of additional plans that go up from there. So a new service option, recurring revenue source potentially from HP.
Interesting. So clarify one thing for me, because I was trying to understand. So this is a subscription service tailored for SMBs, but you as a channel partner can sell it on behalf, or can you subscribe your customers to it? Is that how I'm reading this?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. So, and this was another. So I have one more article. We're talking about pretty much everything I've written from the show on this podcast today. There's one more story that I will write on the trip home from Palo Alto today, and it's going to touch a little bit on all of. There was a lot of talk from the stage yesterday at the show about services and the role of services in HP's future, because they know very well, as we all know, that customers out there want as a service everything. And so that's going to play a role in their business. But they're also very sensitive to the fact that, they were speaking to an audience of partners, and there are partners out there who worry when they hear about companies like HP getting into services. Well, that's my game, HP. Are you going to be competing with me? And they were very clear in saying, no, 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 we are a channel focused company. We're not competing with you. And so this Instant Ink program is an example of that, where this is something they're going to market with alongside their partners, not cutting the partners out of this loop.
And the pricing is based on per sheet, not per cartridge, right? So is it different prices for black and white and color, or is it different prices for laser and ink? Like, do they kind of specify that?
I do know it's different prices for black and white versus color. I don't know off the top of my head if it varies by ink versus toner.
Okay.
It probably, I think, I don't know how they're doing the small business, but the consumer one was based on the product you were at and basically number of prints and different things. I actually signed up for the consumer one back during COVID when I was working from home. It was just an easy way, and I'm still a member. It makes it super easy. As soon as you put a cartridge in, a couple of weeks later, you're receiving another cartridge in the mail. They give you the return label. So, and again, I'm not even working from home anymore. I'm not even printing, and I'm just paying. So as an MSP, that's what you want, right? You want that reoccurring revenue that just keeps on giving. And so HP loves me. One thing I would love to hear, Rich, is I would love to learn, how can I become an HP partner to sell their printers? I tried years ago to do that, and they basically told us no new partners. And so I'm authorized to sell computers, but not printers. So what happens with my smaller businesses, my small business clients who, if I'm not ready to introduce them to a managed print provider who I partner with, now if I got to help them get HPs, I'm basically just ordering stock off Amazon or whatever and making no money on and I would love to see an article or something from HP on, are they opening this up? Are they going to let more MSPs in? And how can I become an actual HP hardware for printer reseller?
That is really, really interesting. I hadn't heard that before. HP basically makes it sound like, hey, if you want to partner with us, we want to partner with you. Join our Amplify program, which is their partner program for the last 2 years. It's been called Amplify. I would have thought if you said, hey, I want to do PCs and printers, that would be A-OK, but apparently not. Yeah, I don't know about that. I would be interested to learn more.
Yeah, and I haven't tried in the past 2 years, so I don't know if maybe it changed, but I know a few years ago that I wanted nothing more. I want to make a couple of bucks on everything. You can't. There's not much money to make on hardware like that when you're in the lower end stuff, but to be able to know I have a distributor to work with, or even direct and all that, rather than having to buy it from someone else.
Yeah, that is crazy. I would have assumed, if nothing else, that they would be happy to have you buy through a distributor. So yeah, I don't know.
Rich, did they say what kind of profit potential there is for partners on these subscription plans? What kind of cut partners get?
I did not hear or get any details around that. They kind of talked about, they mentioned that there's recurring revenue and a sign-on bonus, but there were no specifics provided around that that I got anyway.
Okay, well, if it sounds interesting, folks, I'm sure that we'll be able to go and find some links to learn a little bit more about this particular program. Might be of interest to you, particularly if you're already doing. Mike, do you do a lot of printer sales? I know you said you can't sell the HP ones, but do you generally do a lot of print? Try to do a lot of print stuff with your customers?
It depends, right? Once my bigger clients, accountants, financial, they're printing a lot. I've partnered with a managed print provider where they'll basically come in, lease some machines, handle the service. But when it comes to, wanting to do smaller machines, my clients come to us for everything. what I end up doing is just basically buying them. What I'm doing today is buying them on Amazon or even sometimes directly from HP.com and not even making a markup, right? How can I make a markup if I'm buying it for the price they could go and see it sold at Staples or Best Buy? But there's a good amount of printers we sell, but we're not doing high-end printers. I'm talking desktop printers, these styles like you're speaking about, Rich, the LaserJet 3000, the MFPs. That's what we're doing a lot of.
Well, and hey, you know what? Now with this kind of subscription model, there might even be some upside now for you to do the little lazy Tuesday printers. Even if you don't make money on the printer, you might be able to make it up on the backside.
Right. Absolutely. And even as a way, maybe you bundle it in, like I'm always looking to continue to add value and growth, right? At Tekie Geek, we get a higher cost per user, and I try to add things. So now I might add a couple of bucks a month to say, oh, and that also includes print. We're going to put a printer, you get this. It just, we become that more attractive.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So cool. Well, we'll leave folks. Oh, by the way, folks, if you want to read more, there's, we're kind of covering just like the high level of what's in these articles. But if you want to read the whole article, whole story, and some of the links that it kind of links off to get more information, we're going to put all of this stuff in the show notes for this episode. You can find the show notes at channelpronetwork.com. Go to episode 237, and all the links will be there. If you open up the description area on your phone, usually the links are all in there for you as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all of the buttons except the thumbs down. We don't like that one. Don't hit that one. Thumbs up only, please. Leave a good comment, but if you open up the description area there as well, you will see the links in there so you can kind of read along as we talk about it. And we're going to talk about the next story. And Rich, they've announced a new partner enablement portal that has some other stuff along with it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so one of the things they did this week was announce some enhancements and some additions to Amplify, the partner program I was mentioning before. They didn't give us a whole lot of detail around this, but this was sort of the coming out party for what is going to be their portal to rule them all. Basically, the partner portal worldwide over time will become this new site that they introduced yesterday that's called Curiosity, as in Curiocity, City. Curiosity. They didn't give us a demo. They didn't show us a lot of screen shots. I don't know a lot about how it's going to work and how it looks, but the city part of that name is apparently very much by design. There's some kind of gamification element to this, where you visit different parts of the city to perform different kinds of functions. But it's going to pull together a virtual university where all the training materials are going to be. There's going to be a community in there where HP partners can communicate with HP, but also with each other one-to-one or in bigger forums. This is just going to be where they kind of pull together all of their online resources for Amplify. HP's fiscal year begins November 1st, and right now that's when they're saying that Curiosity will debut. They said it's going to be a phased rollout, so I don't know if it launches here in the U.S. and then goes global from there, or they start it overseas and it comes here later. But this is coming to the HP channel, this new portal. They also announced some changes to the HP Amplify Data Insights platform. Now, if you go way back, a couple of years ago, to when HP announced that they were going to be rolling out Amplify, one of the key things and the key innovations in that program at the time is they said, we are going to really strongly encourage our partners to share their customer data, their sales data and information about their customers with us. We're going to pool that data together with information we have about those customers. And then together, we're going to look for untapped opportunities to make more money together, serving the needs of these clients. And the platform that they introduced to make all that happen is called Amplify Data Insights. It rolled out almost a year ago at this point. It was interesting, Matt. I don't know if you remember, but when we were first talking about this 2 years ago, there were a lot of question marks between us and with the guest host. Are partners going to be willing to share their data with HP like that? That might be a little scary to people. Apparently 99% of HP partners worldwide are in Amplify now, and 98% of those partners have agreed to pool their data with HP and use the Data Insights platform. which was interesting. So now, but HP, it's been out, like I said, about a year. HP has been collecting input from partners the whole time. There are a number of things partners have been asking for that are here now or are coming soon. So partners have been looking for the ability to do this data analysis on a customer-specific basis, as opposed to looking at my whole customer base. Let's just talk about this one account. That's something that they're adding to the platform. There's more automation coming to make using the system simpler. I don't have a lot of details about what they're automating, but there's automation coming. And then, not surprisingly, there have been a lot of requests by partners for the ability to integrate data insights with their CRM system, so that they can kind of exchange data back and forth. That kind of goes to automation if you think about it. They have integration APIs that they're piloting now. At some point within the next 12 months, they said they will roll those out, general availability, and you will have the ability to integrate data insights to your CRM system. And then the other thing that they announced is the Amplify Impact program is going global. This is not it's not really going to concern our audience very much. Amplify Impact is a sustainability, an environmental sustainability program that HP introduced a ways back. And it basically allows you, if you are someone who wants to create your own sustainability initiative, just like HP has. And I have an article, by the way, coming in the next issue of ChannelPro, which will, in a very dollars and cents way, explain why you might want to do that. We'll end up talking about that in the podcast. But if you're somebody who wants to do that, you don't know how to get started, you don't know how to do it, Amplify Impact kind of steps you through that. It's been available in the US for a while. In fact, today it's available in 43 countries, I think. It's going to be available worldwide within the next 2 years. And that was something else that they talked about a little bit at the show.
Wow, that's a lot to dive into right there. So first of all, I want to comment on 99% of people decided to share their data with HP. That's a very surprising
99% of partners have joined Amplify. 98% of those shared their data.
Right, same difference. That's an enormous percentage that opted to give that kind of insight to HP. Mike, what do you think about that?
Too long to read. I just agree to the terms.
Yeah,
it was probably hitting in a little pop-up that came up. Hey, we changed our terms. You agree? Let's be honest. Look, it depends what you're sharing and what your beneficial is, but you're more and more. I'll admit this to you. Who reads the terms? You just agree. You're going through. So you log on a couple of weeks ago. I logged on the data, right? There's new terms. Am I going to sit there and read through? I can't. I'm trying to read the lease for my expansion up here. I gave up after about. I said to my lawyer, I hope this is good because I give up. I can't read this, and I think that's what you get. We're talking about people being busy. They just agree in the terms. So that's how you get in those numbers like that. And what are you going to do? You're going to fight it. You're not going to give them the info. You're going to get the info one way or the other.
Very, very, very true. Are you a member of the Amplify program? Is this something that you use? Is this something that is of interest to you?
Oh, no, definitely of interest. So I was actually trying to pull it up as we here to see if my partner account logs into that. It looks like that became exactly as Rick said 2 years ago. Look, it came live November 2020. So I'm not sure if I am, but it's definitely something I'm going to look furthering and then see if does that make it easier to become a printer reseller. Maybe that was the difference, right? I was a part of a different partner program from before. So I might be in that 1% or 2% that never made the switch, or I might have received an email in the middle of the pandemic in my panicking and was like, yeah, I'll just click yes, that's good. So I might be, I might not sure.
A couple of things about this. So first of all, and I forget the specifics, but I remember all the way back when they first said, 2 years ago that they were going to be doing this, they said that there would be incentives basically to encourage partners to share data. I mean, in essence, that they would be measuring their partners by whether or not they share data. The ones who do, are clearly their better partners and will get rewarded for that. The other thing, this was something that they said from the main stage yesterday that's worth mentioning, and this too is an incentive for sharing data. They said that through the system, by pooling their data with partner data, they were able to identify 30 million renewal and upgrade opportunities, or let's put it differently, renewal and upgrade opportunities touching 30 million PCs within the last 12 months, and renewal and upgrade opportunities touching 10 million printers in the last 12 months. So this data is actually producing information that you can go to market with. Hey, you've got a very old printer here. Look at all the amazing things the newest generation can do that you might enjoy. And so that too is maybe a reason why 98% of people are sharing data, is they're getting some benefit from that.
Mike, I would assume that you have probably some data on that, at least from your own customers. Do you track like what's out there in your customers and where things need to get replaced?
Yeah, so we use it to track, obviously inventory, asset management. We use a third party application, a software to track warranties to be able. I don't actually, but it's doing the desktop and the laptops. I don't think it's currently doing printers. Look, I love when a vendor comes to me and says, "Hey, here you go. You have an opportunity to make some money. Here's your clients. Here's their printers. Here's the printers that are out there. They're eligible to go ahead and get warranties or be replaced. Go make money." The problem is you got to be worried that there's some vendors out there that will come to you as well as then email direct to your client, and that's where you get into a hard time. Because then you're like, well, if I'm the partner, work with me. Let me do the work. Now don't try to cut me out of the middle and go direct. And you see that sometimes. I don't know if HP is doing that or not. We don't sell a lot of HP computers. HP is on my go-to when I am selling like printers, like I said, but we do not sell their computers. So I'm it's just a couple of laptops here and there, but it's really not our go-to.
Well, that was the Rich, I remember when we were talking about this on the show when this started, that was the kind of the concern we were talking about at the time. I was like, well, is this a way for HP to start kind of cutting partners out of the middle by getting all of this data, and then maybe try to convert people to go direct on certain, at least with certain purchases, or use that as leverage, like, oh, I see that the partner sold you blah 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 computers. Well, it also looks like you need servers, and try to do that. Like, but it looks like that's not happening, right?
I mean, yeah, not as far. Well, you would think that they wouldn't have that 98% participation number if people who had opted in before were getting upset about the consequences. So yeah, I assume that is not happening.
Okay, interesting stuff. Well, folks, if you're interested in some of the new analytics and enhancements that's part of the program, go and check out this article. And probably if you're an Amplify partner, or if you're in the Amplify program, log in and see what's there for you. But I want to move on, Rich, to the next story, which I'm always excited about because we get to talk about hardware, which is like my kind of thing that I'm all about. So they have introduced some hybrid work PCs and some new peripherals this week. And why don't you tell people about it while I figure out why my voice is disappearing?
I knew we were coming right into your wheelhouse here, Matt. So yeah, let's talk hardware. Because they introduced some new devices here, which are kind of interesting, actually. So the first is a new laptop. It's the latest addition to their Dragonfly portfolio. The Dragonflies are their very thin, light, premium laptops. So the new one is called the Dragonfly Folio G3. It's about 3 pounds, 12th gen Intel Core processors, up to 32 gigs of low power DDR5 memory, up to 2 terabytes of storage. It's interesting, and this is interesting, Matt. You might have an insight on this that I don't. HP never once referred to this thing either as a 2-in-1 or as a convertible. But there was a time in not so distant past we would have said both those things about this, because you can kind of use it both as a traditional laptop and as a tablet. It has what HP calls a pull-forward design. So you open it up, it's like an ordinary clamshell laptop. If you can imagine taking the bottom edge of the display and kind of detaching it a little bit from the panel behind it and pulling that forward, you now have the display kind of tented over the keys. And if you want to watch video or something like that, you can use it in that kind of tent mode. If you fold it all the way back, now it becomes kind of an ordinary tablet, and the device comes with a magnetically attached pen. You can draw, you can take notes by hand, and so on. 3:2 aspect ratio display. A little bit taller than previous generations of the Dragonfly, which at least one person I was talking to here kind of appreciates. And I'm looking very quickly for the starting price here, and gosh darn it, I'm not seeing it. Here it is, $23.79 and up. $23.79 is the starting price. Now, for about $250 less than that, the starting price on this new product is $21.19. This is the new 34-inch HP All-in-One. It is it's got a 500 nit display, 34-inch monitor, obviously, WUHD. The really interesting thing about this is it has up to two attachable 16 megapixel cameras. So they are sort of separate from the main all-in-one itself. There are magnetic attachment points around the display, and you can kind of decide where around the display you want to snap this thing to the panel, depending on what angle you want on you and whatever it is that you're doing. And then you can use up to two of them simultaneously. And so the idea is you might want one camera on you while you're on a Zoom call and another on something that you are showing people, demoing for people with your hands. You now have the ability to do that. So kind of a flexible, adaptable device, as Mike is showing us on video right there. There's also a new 4K USB-C monitor with Thunderbolt 4 connectivity, 31.5-inch IPS black display. And then they now have, they introduced a new 4K streaming webcam. And I say they now have two because Dell just within the last few months introduced a 4K streaming webcam of their own. And it's kind of amusing. I had lunch yesterday at the show with Rob Enderle, amazing analyst. It was really nice getting a chance to say hello to him for the first time in a few years. Bob O'Donnell from Technalysis was at the table. So it was me and three analysts at this table having lunch, and they were kind of talking about this stuff. And they both noted that not only does HP now have a 4K camera like Dell does, but those two cameras look suspiciously like one another. They're like, I wonder if it's the same Chinese manufacturer, because they actually just look like the same thing. But we don't know. Didn't get a chance to ask that question. But new camera, a 4K camera from HP, and there were also some additions. We won't get into them, but around HP's Proactive Insights remote management platform as well. But that's the hardware news from the show, Matt.
And a lot of hardware news it is. I'll comment on a couple things because you did a great job kind of summarizing. Point number one is, yes, I would call the Folio G3 a convertible or a 2-in-1 or whatever, because if you can use it in dual mode, it's a convertible or it's a 2-in-1. Well, I don't know, Mike, have you noticed that, like, it seems like 2-in-1 is kind of a bad word these days, because they're not the only ones that are kind of not using that language in a lot of cases. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Like, I agree with you. You don't really, you're seeing people go away from that. And if you think a number of years ago, that was the big selling point. Right? There was a point where you like every computer or laptop at some point is going to be a 2-in-1. It's I don't know. Is it one of those things like a curved Samsung monitor that everyone wanted at one point, and now you don't see curved TVs anymore? Is it a gimmick? I've tried them. I didn't love them. I me myself. I went right back to, I guess, what you would call ultrabooks. I like small screens, and I'm okay with it open in one. But I think that over the years, people are going away. But there's still some people out there. I have some clients that still love the ability to put in a folio and write on it, but they don't want to call it that. They're calling it something different.
Yeah, I have noticed that I like 2-in-1. I do. I like the concept of 2-in-1s, and I think there's a lot of people that like the concept of 2-in-1s. But I think in actual practice, very, 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 very few people who get a 2-in-1 with a touchscreen or with a pen actually leverage it in any way, shape, or form, and normally just end up using it as a laptop. Yeah. I will say though, of all of the different designs that we've seen for 2-in-1, because there's a lot. I think there's two that have been more successful than others. And I think the Surface style of 2-in-1, where it is essentially a tablet with kind of a snap-on keyboard, and you can take the keyboard off and use it as a tablet. I think that's a pretty good design, and I think that one has some legs. And if you're going to do a notebook clamshell style, I really think HP's got it right with this one. I think the fold around ones where you just fold the thing 360 over the top, and you've kind of got the keyboard keys, even though the keyboard gets disabled, but you feel the keys on the backside. I never thought that was the right way to do it. And it always felt unnatural. Yeah. I like the pull forward approach. I think it folds in flat. I think it's nice. I like that you can kind of write on it a little bit that way, but I just don't see it being a super common, use case for a lot of people. And Mike, I think you're 100% right. I think there are those people who get these and use it. I just don't think there's very many of them that do. So, my opinion, my thoughts. But I will say the Folio is a gorgeous laptop. It's incredibly thin. It looks wonderful. The specs are right. It looks like a very, very nice piece of kit. When you were talking about the all-in-one, that also sounds pretty cool. I want to talk about the cameras in a minute because I think that's kind of neat. But it's a 34-inch. It's a WHD, so it's a 21:9 display. So it's a very, very wide display. Did they say if it's curved or not?
I believe it's flat.
Flat. Okay. So I think if you're going to do on that size, I think I'd probably prefer it be curved, but that's just my opinion.
I think, yeah, I love the curved monitors. I don't like the curved TV. That's where you go the gimmick. I have an ultra wide in my home office, and that's when it makes sense to be curved because you're sitting so close. And you think about when you ever have two monitors side by side, that's when you're angling them in a way that almost mimics a curve. But
yeah, curved makes sense when there's one person using it and they're in the middle. Other than that, it doesn't. That's why I never thought it was a very good idea for TVs unless you live alone and slap your chair right in the middle of the damn thing. But I 100% agree with you for the monitors. It makes a lot of sense. That sounds cool, Mike. What do you think about the camera?
So it's
the dual camera thing.
It's interesting, but what I'm curious is what's the software, right? Because now there has to be some software coming with that. Because you got to be able, if I put a camera over on my right side, a camera in the middle, are they giving you a software to do picture-in-picture? Or are they giving you keys on a keyboard to do shortcuts to cycle between, right? Just having two cameras, I can't join a Zoom and now say, hey, I have two cameras connected, show both. You have to have software to do that. So I'm curious what they're doing with it. It sounds like an interesting concept, right? The biggest problem when you have is placement, right? Even like me, I have a big arm here and I'm getting the camera. I got you guys in front of me. So ideally I'm looking at the camera when I'm looking at you, but it's hard. It's tough. So if they've come up with a way to maneuver it, really cool. But I'm curious how the software is going to play out to be able to now have two cameras and bring them into this type of setting.
I agree. There was a review I did recently on Jabra's webcam. The name of it is escaping me right now for some reason, but they did their Rich, what is it called?
I remember the review. I can't remember the model name.
Oh my god, it's hang on. The Panicast. Sorry. So they came up with this webcam called the Panicast, and it was kind of like a meeting work group kind of webcam for like team collaboration remotely, and it had like 3 cameras in it, and that was a really cool webcam, very neat. But they came out with one that was called the Panicast 20, and it was like another take on an individual webcam, and they had this feature where they can basically do a built-in picture-in-picture with the one single camera. And in my review I noted that that's a neat thing. I just don't like 2-in-1s. I just don't see how that really is a useful thing for many people. What do you think, Mike? Have you ever had the need or desire to have, to be showing something, to have 2 views on you at once?
So I like collectibles, and I did try to do an unboxing. When you do something like that, but it's not going to be 2 views really on me from the same. Now I'm doing 2 views from complete separate, right? When I was doing that, I was kind of doing top down, looking at the box and my hands. but not really. I would not see I need two needs from the same kind of point, like camera, like focal point. And then the other thing is when you look at it, even like it shows up odd when you do it. Like even how the owl does it, like, yeah, it gives you a whole view of the room and then focuses on one person. But you kind of, in a zoom, you've now taken what would have been a big picture of the one person or the room and it's chopped and made it smaller. So I'm not a fan. At some point, maybe, the softwares will start to say, hey, I want to add a separate camera source. I want to have 3 cameras in. Maybe that will start to make sense. And if you had a switcher, but to kind of just do picture in picture, it's weird. It doesn't make the most sense.
Yeah, and there are, I think, people who really do have that need have already come up with ways to do it effectively. I know, like, you can take multiple you could have like multiple cameras, feed it into something like OBS, and then mux your own view, and then present it as a virtual camera to whatever application you do. And that seems like a pretty good way to get the flexibility you want. And then you can have your cameras really anywhere and at multiple qualities. So, I mean, it's cool. It's cool to see that them trying this. I agree the software is going to make a big difference whether or not they can stitch those together and present it as one camera, because otherwise you're going to be like in something like Zoom and manually switching your devices, and that's not a very good experience. So yeah, we'll have to see what that's like, but that's cool. Anything else in here to talk about, Rich, that I thought was interesting? The 2 webcams, the Dell and the HP one, do look oddly similar. I looked it up and they do look really, 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 really similar. So you might be right on that one. And the display. You talk about the 4K display, right?
Yeah, the USB-C one.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I hope to see more. Well, one, I want to see more Thunderbolt support for desktops, because I know it's really, really supported on laptops a lot, but something like this would be cool on a desktop PC. But it's really, it looks like a really great display. So awesome stuff.
Yeah. My question, I'm guessing it's not. Can you actually power it over the USB-C too? Does it now just need a single cable and you no longer need power, or does it still need power? My guess, it probably still needs power.
I would guess a monitor that size would still need power, but Thunderbolt 4 can provide more power than 3 can. Oh, so I'm not 100% sure. Rich, did they say if it needs a separate power source?
If they did, I didn't note that actually, so I'm not certain. But you could probably look this up. I would assume this is now online. So
yeah, I'll pull the model. Because the more and more, I will say, what we're seeing is we're seeing people and a lot of executives, they love to put their desk in the middle of a room. They love to set their monitors up, but they want everything to be super neat. And of course, you want to, because they want to be able to have people walk in a beautiful office, sit on the other side. And then they're like, well, why do I need this cable? Well, that's power. We need power, So being able to now say, all right, USB-C, if you had power, put the display and that tiny little cable, makes things so much nicer. And then we're doing even a lot more monitors with the built-in. I don't know if HP has it. Dell has it, where it pops out and it just, again, less on the desk, less clutter, makes it for a super nice office. And Rich, I gotta say, you are now completely blended with the wall.
yeah. It's basically just 2 eyes in a field of nothing.
And it's like that scene in Harry Potter where he's starting to fade off into the whiteness. Like you're moving into the afterlife. Rich, don't go towards the light. Don't go towards the light.
I'm going to assume you're using the light, the camera built into your laptop, and it's probably time to pick yourself up either one of the HP or Dell USB-C monitors that were manufactured in the same plant.
You know what? I'm actually using a remote Logitech camera, but I bet if I change a setting on, I probably have the exposure set wrong, like manually and inappropriately for this lighting. Because this is crazy.
I think it's great. I think you should send that to HP and be like, "Your right light technology is amazing. Thank you." And do we have to? I think you forgot. Is it now time to mention that this podcast was sponsored by HP?
It was not sponsored by HP, but we would HP, if you're listening, we would love your support in the future. Please consider sponsoring the ChannelPro Weekly podcast. It would be great. We would like that very much. And on that note, why don't we take a break? And actually, no, Rich, I'm sorry, we got a quick mention we got to get to, and then I want to get to our interview. So, what's the quick mention here with ConnectWise?
Super quick, and then we can move on to the interview. I did a story earlier this week about something that ConnectWise is doing in partnership with ChannelPro. ChannelPro is this organization, a community, and a directory and a membership group created by two veterans of ID Agent. One of the big things that they do is these pitch contests, these channel pitch contests where vendors present to an anonymous audience of channel pros, basically. So you can learn about all these different vendors without handing over contact information and getting harassed by these vendors afterwards. Apparently, this has been going very well for them, but they're now going to be working with ConnectWise because for a number of years now, this will be the 5th year, ConnectWise has conducted this contest that they call Pitch It, as in Pitch IT, and basically they go out to partners of theirs that have that are startups with new solutions that typically are built around the ConnectWise platform in one way or another. And these different startups can compete with one another, and the grand prize winner gets, this year it'll be $70,000. The second place finisher gets $30,000. There are some benefits for being in third place as well. In the past, everything that happened until you got to the 3 finalists happened inside ConnectWise. They essentially decided who the finalists were going to be, and then their partners would vote for the first, second, third place at the IT Nation Connect event in November. This year, in collaboration with ChannelPro, we the people, the channel partners who attend these 2 events that the ChannelPro is going to be running next week, get to listen to these pitches from the 18 startups that have qualified to potentially be finalists. And they will cast a vote, and those votes will very heavily influence who the 3 finalists are. And then the 3 finalists will compete at IT Nation Connect in November, as always. So those 2 Pitch It events, if you're curious, take place on August 30th and September 1st. If you go to channelprogram.com, you'll get all the details on that and see how to sign up. Like I said, 18 companies, including some that we've even spoken about in the podcast before, and something worth checking out, a chance to have an opportunity to potentially help one of these companies collect a little capital that's going to help them grow and thrive and become another part of the channel community.
Neat. Yeah, that sounds like something people should go and check out. So go and do that. Go to the show sheet for 237 and find the link there so you can learn a little bit more about that. I'm really excited, though. We're going to move on. We've got an awesome interview coming up with Abe Garver. He's the managing director and MSP team leader at Focus Investment Banking. We've been talking a lot about the M&A market, but the M&A market maybe has changed because the economy has drastically changed over the last 6 months. There's a lot of things going on. So we're going to bring him on to talk. Unfortunately, Mike will not be joining us for this interview because we had to record it a little bit earlier on and he wasn't available. So, but Mike will be back when we get to part 3. But until then, we're going to switch over to that interview and we'll see you in a minute. Are you an MSP who is recommending Dell hardware to your end users? If so, then you'll want to check out the Dell Expert Network. The new Dell Expert Network program is a rewards and incentives program designed for service-focused MSPs who are supporting the small business market. This program is designed to deliver value and save time for MSPs who are recommending their end users to purchase Dell hardware. Currently, Dell Expert Network customers get an additional 3% back in Dell rewards when they buy Microsoft servers. Check out the Dell Expert Network today. And welcome back to part 2 of this episode of ChannelPro Weekly. You know, the mergers and acquisition market for MSPs has been red hot the past 2 years, but 2022 has now become a very economically turbulent year with ever-rising inflation, recession fears, and higher interest rates. Now, how does that affect MSPs looking to acquire or sell their businesses right now? Here to shed some light on that is Abe Garver, Managing Director and MSP Team Leader at Focus Investment Banking. Welcome, Abe.
Thanks, Matt. And great to see you too, Rich.
It's great to have you on the show. I should say, welcome back to the show. You have been on before, but if you can take a few minutes to tell us a little bit more about you and a little bit more about Focus Investment Banking.
Sure, Matt. So I'm Abe Garver, the MSP team leader and managing director with Focus Investment Bank. We're a middle market investment bank. My area of expertise is the MSP market, and have been super fortunate to be the catalyst for and advise on MSP transactions with now 49 parties in about the past 2.5 years. We'll be over 50 by the end of the year. My firm, about 75 of us in Tyson's in Virginia, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and we have M&A advisors kind of throughout the country. We've been super fortunate in the MSP market in 2020. Is when really a lot of platforms, private equity-backed platforms, started to be formed in, kind of 2018 was really the top year. Focus got heavily involved. We did 4 platforms. We were the catalyst for 4 in 2020. And we're now at 9. We have a 10th just about to close and an 11th. As an industry, we now have 100 private equity-backed MSP platforms. And, kind of bringing us, forward to today, kind of, the state of the market for MSP. You mentioned kind of at the outset, changes in interest rates, just kind of recession, et cetera. It's really like we could not all be more fortunate. Basically, when COVID hit, MSPs grew and went up. When interest rates went up and a recession is we're on the doorstep of a recession, MSP business and valuation has gone up. It's like it's somebody can set off a nuclear bomb, and I think the MSP, business would continue to boom. And, we pull the camera back and ask ourselves, why is that the case? And I mean, every day we, the 3 of us on this podcast, we're using our laptops, we're, kind of hooked in through our company's IT infrastructure. We all have security concerns. Like, it's just a part of, it's a part of our daily life being on, the laptop or the desktop, or and companies that are outsourcing, as it gets more and more complex. My company, I mentioned, we have 75 people. Instead of having an internal IT resource, we could outsource to an MSP, and that MSP is providing all the IT help desk, et cetera, support. And it's invaluable as our economy continues to grow. We're just in a really, all of us are just in a really great business. And the M&A market reflects that, both with the, there's so many MSPs, and as people get older and want to retire, there are, great exit opportunities for them with these now 100 private equity-backed MSP platforms. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, well, let's take a step back, because the immediate impetus, the main recent reason why I wanted to get you back on the podcast is you sent me. At that time, it was the draft of what became a blog post on current conditions, M&A conditions in the managed services landscape. And I will link to the final blog post online in the show notes for this episode so people can read it, because I really do recommend that you read it in detail. But it's interesting. The last time we saw each other face to face, Abe, was in Newark, New Jersey at the beginning of March. It was ChannelPro's first SMB forum event of the year. And I mean, everything was booming at the time. And a lot of things have changed in the last 6 months. You referred to some of those. Interest rates are way higher than they were. Inflation has proved to be a bigger and more persistent issue than people expected that it would be. Supply chain issues persist. People are very concerned about the possibility or likelihood of a recession at some point in the future now. And all of that potentially has an impact on the M&A landscape for managed service providers. But I'm going to quote from the blog post right now and then give you a chance to comment a little bit more. Quote, "We are seeing no decrease in company valuations and an increase in the number of people wanting to have conversations with us about selling or buying an MSP. So despite all of the issues that are affecting the economy outside of this one area here, it sounds like there really has been no change. If anything, things are looking better maybe for a seller right now than 6 months ago when we last talked."
Yes, and it's pulling the camera back like this has like focus. My team alone, we will do over $250 million of MSP transaction value just this year. Looking at the revenue from like our advisory revenue from 19, kind of 20 on, we I think we're at a approximately 2,500% 3-year growth rate. So just like I have my own kind of perspective, kind of the market is booming in front of us. Some of that is, we're fortunate to have specialized in this niche, and there's a lot going on there. But I also got concerned, I'd say, with you and others and everyone in the audience, as the Fed was hiking rates 75 basis points and then another 75 basis points. And as I thought about it, immediately it was like private equity loves MSPs because of our recurring revenue. So I better get on the phone with two groups. I better get on the phone with private equity buyers. My question for the private equity buyers was, you guys have raised all this money with public stock valuations, imploding. Now there's an imbalance. There's all of this private equity makes up more as a percent of someone's portfolio than the public companies. Will anyone call that money back that you private equity groups have raised? And I heard from everybody, no, it's committed capital. It's not going back. So I've got 17 private equity buyers that want between 15 million of EBITDA and 30 million of EBITDA, which is, there are not many MSPs that have even $5 million of EBITDA. And so all of these funds, they're, kind of when we started in 2020 and got really active, there were $500 million private equity funds that were basically the ones making the platform investments. Well, I'm up to 17, like counting them today, I'm up to 17 that have billion-dollar funds, $2 billion funds. BlackRock called me and said, we can write a check up to $1 billion, and we'll go as low as 25 million of EBITDA. Like, help us find an MSP platform with that. So there's this huge imbalance of equity, private equity cash, trying to make platform investments and then add on. So, that's one major factor. The second major factor, I got on the phone with the lenders that have lent to the buyers, the private equity groups, in all these platform transactions. And there's two lenders in particular in that article, and I've got quotes from them. It's the DeerPath. DeerPath has done most of the lending to Integris, kind of Integris's first buyer, General Informatics first buyer, first private equity buyer, the Purple guys, on down the line. Basically, 80% of the first lower middle market lending was done by DeerPath to MSPs. So I got them on the phone, and then I got AB, Alliance Bernstein Private Credit, on the phone. And Alliance Bernstein has done most of the lending to the recapitalizations. So after Thrive got its first private equity investment, did a bunch of add-ons. It brought in a new larger private equity partner, Cord Square. That's when AB, Alliance Bernstein Private Credit, comes in. So it lends to, Thrive was 20 million of EBITDA at the time. It's now about 50. It did the Antiva. Antiva was about 15 of EBITDA. AB Private Credit did that lending. And then AB Private Credit did Cortelligent when Cortelligent recapped. So I got on the phone with both of these lenders and said, guys, I'm getting a little nervous. What the private equity people have the money, it's not going away. They're going to keep buying. Are you guys going to, kind of like wreck everything here? What's the deal? And they both said, and like I got the top large part of the market represented in this conversation and the lower part. They both said, Abe, we are leaning in. Like we love the MSP sector. We love the recurring revenue. It's been great investments for us. It's mainly recession resilient. And interest rates, even though they went up 75 basis points, the loans that both of these parties use to back private equity platforms, MSP platforms, they're basically 5-year non-amortizing loans, which means they're interest only. And every 5 years, the new private equity group comes in and it gets refinanced. So it's an interest only, and it's set with 1% is the floor. It's LIBOR or 1%, and then a spread. And the spread is, let's say, 750 basis points or 7.5%. So basically, LIBOR was below 1%. So when the rates went up 0.75, it was the lower of 1% or LIBOR. So it had been at 1, and a couple rate hikes, basically, long story short, has only made the cost of lending go up by 2%. And so that's not really enough to slow this market at all with all the private equity money. The private equity doesn't need the debt. It doesn't need the leverage, because unless it can deploy, it doesn't start earning management fees until it deploys equity money. So first the equity kind of comes in. They don't really need the debt. They're like, okay, we'll take the debt. The larger ones like a Thrive, and some of the other had some peer group meetings in Denver a couple of weeks ago, and another PE-backed platform said, our lender is lending us up to 7x EBITDA. So it's this combination of a lot of private equity money and then a lot of inexpensive still leverage. And if you think about if the lender on a platform is lending 7x of EBITDA, and the add-on that they're going to buy only costs 6.5 or 7 times EBITDA, there's no dilution to the equity holders. They can basically buy and have the leverage pay the whole purchase price. So those underlying dynamics here people are just pushed. We have minted in 2022 through the first 6 months of the year, there have been 13 new PE-backed MSP platforms formed. I've got 2 more to come this year, and that if we stay on the pace of 2022 this year, the first 6 months, we may make 26 new private equity-backed MSP platforms, up from the previous record of 21 in 2018. So that, it's phenomenal. And literally I said right at the start, focus, we are, for a lower middle market, investment bank to do over $250 million just in MSP transactions. Like, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's like, you know, we're super fortunate to be in this industry. It's just, you know, you sometimes in life you pick the right place at the right time. We're just got lucky.
So, you know, you mentioned that like the Black Rocks of the world right now will go, you know, down to $25 million of EBITDA. Obviously, the overwhelming majority of folks in our audience right now are below that number. If I remember right, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when we spoke in March, I seem to remember you telling me that the magic number was $2.5 million of EBITDA. That was, you know, once you got north of $2.5 million EBITDA, there were going to be some interested potential buyers out there. So it's been six-ish months since we had that conversation. Has that number changed at all?
That number is the same, 2.5 for a platform. So somebody can get a PE platform and they can control their own destiny and be the leadership of the business and go buy add-ons. And then for add-ons, 500K, you know, their 500K of EBITDA for add-ons is really where these 100 PE buyers, where they start going. It takes them the same amount of time to do a you know, a 500,000 EBITDA as it does a larger one, but that will move the needle for them at 500K. So there are MSP transactions at 250K of EBITDA that are getting done. It's just the buyer, there's not, those 100 private equity buyers are not swarming for 250 transactions, because they can move the needle more if they do $1 million or $1.5 million, but 500 is kind of the inflection point for add-ons, and 2.5 million to be a platform. And that stays the same. Part of it relates back to the lenders. So at 2.5 of EBITDA, Deer Pass minimum is actually 3 of EBITDA, but they'll go down to 2.5. And the lenders love it because they get this new client, the platform, and then every time the platform works real hard to find add-ons. Every time they buy an add-on, the lender doesn't have to do any new work, and they get a new additional lending.
So, you know, you mentioned before, at least in terms of the platform companies, and I assume the add-ons, you know, the 250K, 500K companies that are appealing to a private equity buyer tend to have some kind of niche specialty or focus. There's something about what they sell, how they sell it, that kind of makes them stand out a little bit. On the platform companies, like you were saying earlier on, I mean, you know, even at 5 million and above, there aren't a ton of them out there right now. So, I mean, is it still, from a valuation, from a negotiating standpoint, is it a seller's market right now for MSPs if they're running the kind of company that an acquirer is going to have interest in?
100%. And the way the call I was on just before jumping on with the two of you is something called Project Top Gun. And Project Top Gun was a 10 million revenue, 3.7 EBITDA, and it did a merger of equals with its peer group member, and is now I'm bringing it to market in the next week to 10 days. It's going to be 20 million of revenue and 5.3 of EBITDA. So we broke that magic. There's kind of 2.5 is a magic number for platforms, and 5 is a magic number for platforms, because the bigger private equity groups can't buy the 2.5 EBITDA, and some can buy the 5. And then, like you heard, the BlackRock wants to buy the 25. But the way that we make you, like, you know, a logical question is like, there are 100 of these, how many more are there? And it's like, we're making them. Like, we are custom designing these for our buyer, the private equity group, that has a big fund and needs to deploy a lot of capital.
Yeah, and that's actually, you're reminding me of something we talked about back in March too, that was kind of interesting to me because on the face of it, if you're not at 2.5 or 5 million EBITDA right now, you might be thinking, well, I've got to grow the business before I can actually get into this M&A marketplace right now. But you kind of pointed out that, whether or not you're working with focus, one strategy for smaller companies out there is find a bunch of other smaller companies, merge with them, create a bigger company, which is a much quicker thing to do than to triple your top line or whatever, and then take that business to market. And it sounds like you're actually going ahead and helping these companies pull deals together like that.
Yeah, one that we closed in May called Project Jackpot. It was a Las Vegas company, ITS, did a three-way merger with Intivix in San Francisco and PC Miracles in Detroit. And the three of them, we helped collectively get a private equity investment. It's public from Tower Arch Capital in Salt Lake. And so Tower Arch came to me, a year and a half ago and said, I can't go lower than 5 million of EBITDA because of the size of the fund. Help me find a 5 million EBITDA, MSP, the platform investment that we can make. And I said, there are none. And, Tom, the CEO of ITS, it's just a M&A prodigy with his peer group members, figured out the right two other large, highly operationally mature companies to put together. And voila, we were at the size that, the Tower Arch was asking for.
So I'm going to guess that, most of the MSPs in our audience who are running, high quality companies, their phone is still ringing off the hook with queries from private equity firms. So they kind of have a sense for the continued demand in the marketplace. But I'm curious if you have any sense that there might be MSPs out there less inclined to sell, a little bit nervous about the market because of all these surrounding conditions that we were talking about before. Is there any misconception out there about the state of the marketplace on the MSP side of the transaction from what you can pick up?
I mean, these are pretty much, I would say, too, like the vertical specialization. 90+% of the MSPs I deal with are vertical agnostic, so they will be in multiple industries. And for these MSPs that are vertical agnostic, I don't want to say MSPs are trade like a commodity, but it almost like it takes running an auction, running a process and getting multiple bids to get to ultimately kind of how they trade. It's an illiquid market, and our job is really to create a market and provide liquidity. But any well-run MSP that's 500K of EBITDA or more, there are 100 buyers with private equity, with leverage. If we can't help them get a liquidity event and we're solving for four things: a financial fit. Everybody always identifies with give me the highest value. Well, there's also a cultural fit. Does it work for both sets of employees and customers? A strategic fit. Are the businesses, do they make sense together? And then a geographic fit. So we're solving for four. But if you bring me a 500K EBITDA business, I've joked, we can find the right buyer for that. Having done this with 49 parties in 2.5 years, I can find that buyer for them asleep, riding a bicycle, chewing bubble gum, going backwards. That is a business that will sell all day long. There are 100 buyers.
Now I know exactly what we want to have the next time you come on the show. Is we need to see you riding a bicycle chewing gum backwards, because I want to see how that looks.
I mean, you can.
While closing a deal. Yeah.
Yeah, while closing a deal. That's the beauty of a team. As you get bigger, the team grows and the team does all this stuff and really helps out a lot.
So, I mean, what you just said there raises an interesting question, though. So if it is that easy to get a deal, even for the 500K, the company, for the people in our audience right now who are trying to figure out, how do I time this? Like, how long do these conditions last? Where am I in terms of maximizing or optimizing my value? It's such a complex question, but do you have any advice for folks in the audience about, is now the time to strike while the iron's hot? You've got time, wait, get your numbers to a place that will get you a better multiple. How do you advise folks on timing this market?
Yeah. So here's some thoughts kind of across the continuum on one of the companies we sold to Cortelligent this year in May, had the person was 65 and retiring and sold 100% of the business. Really easy. That's one side of the continuum. You've got a retirement. The other is if you have an opportunity to merge with a private equity, merge with a peer group member and get a private equity investment and kind of have a longer time frame, there can be a more kind of the longer you have to exit and get liquidity, the higher valuation you'll get. And so part of it is, I would say if you're within 5 years of retirement, it's time to start talking and get your business on the market, because it may take a half a year or a year to coach you how to get the business to be worth as much as possible. Take another year to go to market, make the market, signed LOI, and close it. And then they're pretty rare now, but you might have up to a 3-year earnout. And so if you've got 5 years, definitely start having the conversation at the beginning of that 5-year period. If you're Arlen Sorlenson, who leads the peer groups for IT Nation's Evolve peer groups, has an empire, like he has different modes. And there's the empire builder. So if your goal is to get a private equity investment and then do add-ons, you kind of have one path. If your goal is to build value, you may have another objective. You may just grow organically. And if your goal is like a lifestyle, kind of more of a lifestyle business, you'll have a different, kind of approach and intensity. So part of it is understanding what really fits for you. And another way the MSP industry is great is like, it's wonderful that you can have a lifestyle business out of it if you want, and, spend a lot of time with family, do vacations. And then at the other extreme, it's wonderful that you can get private equity to back you and you can grow. Like Integris, a client of ours, grew from 2.5 of EBITDA. It may be as much as 25 of EBITDA within a couple years after, call it 2.5 years of getting the private equity investment. So our industry is awesome in that you can design it around what you're personally trying to accomplish. And there are these just great liquidity options with the private equity groups to help you take money off the table, when it's appropriate. On a panel at Rich when we were at IT Nation Connect last November, one of the questions that was asked to the panelists if they had any advice for MSPs that were thinking about selling, and universally, like the 4 PE-backed platform founder CEOs at the front of the room said, when you come and talk to us, tell us the truth. Like, do you want to retire after 6 months and transition the company? Do you want to be active? Because everybody thinks it changes your valuation, what you tell, what you say to them. And what they said back was, it's not going to change your valuation because we'll design your exit around your needs. So it's really, my advice to people in the audience would be, tell your M&A advisors, and your family and kind of others really what you want, and tell the buyers really what you want, and that will help you get what you want. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
One last question here, and it's sort of the obvious one, just in terms of kind of looking down the road a little bit. And in a weird way, based on what you were saying, in some ways, the economic issues that many people are concerned about right now are actually good news for this marketplace, because it's the consumer-facing businesses that tend to have the most exposure around inflation, for example, and supply chain is impacting companies that are dependent on supply chain. A services business doesn't have that. The recurring revenue, and the recurring IT revenue, which is like the last thing that businesses want to stop spending money on.
Can't get rid of it. Yeah.
There are a lot of things that make the managed services business like a good place for investors to put their money under current conditions. So with that in mind, as you think about the next 6 months, the next 12 months, maybe even the next 18 months, I mean, do you expect to see more of what you're seeing now?
Definitely. Like, I've got this process that one of the processes I'm involved in, like the number of signed NDAs from buyers that have raised committed capital and have funds. Like, I wouldn't want to be competing for one of these assets. Like, it's our inventory is our gold. There are tons and tons and tons and tons of buyers. I don't go out to buyers anymore. The buyers come to me. Like, I don't ever, like, it's a rare, it's rare to run these processes and not, like, all of these buyers have done, have reached out to us, have had calls with us, have told us what their acquisition criteria is. I'll start to get concerned when the buyers dry up and I have to go shopping and looking for buyers. But right now, I got way more buyers than we've got assets. So anybody puts their hand in,
It sounds like if you are looking to sell, now is the time to go and start looking at doing that today.
Yeah. Definitely have a conversation, and it's just like, if we can steer somebody to help them with a peer group member, find kind of like a merger of equal idea, or just coach them on, if you did go to market, like within 10-15 minutes, we can pretty much tell them what, like, we've run the auction so many times, we can tell them what's going to happen based on, here's my revenue, here's my percent recurring, here's my growth rate, here's my EBITDA. I can tell you what's the auction, what will happen in the auction without even running the auction. And if it's not what they want, then it's like, okay, well, let's figure out how to restructure or kind of pivot to be a bigger business or grow quicker, or, that kind of path.
Well, super fascinating stuff and a very interesting discussion. Unfortunately, we are out of time. But for those who want to learn more about this, get in touch with you, are looking to sell their business and need the magic of Abe to kind of guide them to that process and take that over, where can they go? How can they find you?
So it'd be great. Email is great. Abe, abe.garver, Gar, V as in Victor, ER, @focusbankers.com.
Awesome. Well, I hope people check that out. And Abe, I hope the next time you're talking to the folks at BlackRock and if they like writing checks for the minimum value, I will provide my home address.
All right.
Just send me a text and let me know. So just have them do that for me. That'd be great. Awesome stuff. Managing Director and MSP Team Leader at Focus Investment Banking, Mr. Abe Garver, thank you so much for being on. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be going into part 3, and we'll break down the show and have a little bit of fun. So we will see everybody on the other side. And we are back with part 3 of this episode of Channel Pro Weekly. Wow, that was a really, really interesting interview with Abe Garver. It's amazing how much he knows about the investment world and how experienced he is with MSPs and that's that part of the business specifically. So big thanks to him for coming on and talking through it. Very surprising interview. Rich, I know we don't have a lot of time, but do you want to highlight anything that you found interesting?
One quick thing I just want to call attention to, because we were talking a little bit about a possible strategy for going forward being that you can merge maybe with peers, create a larger company, then take that larger company out to the private equity firms. At one point, very briefly, Abe touched on a particular way to do that, if that's of interest, which is to merge with members of your peer group. And I just wanted to call attention to that because it immediately called to mind Iconic IT, which a few years ago was formed by 4 MSPs who were in an IT Nation Evolve peer group together. And they all kind of decided, to be more competitive in the future, we need to get bigger. And but the beauty of that approach is, instead of kind of going out into the world and looking for people who you might be compatible with and, doing your best to determine whether or not that is correct or not, if the folks in your peer group, you already know them well, you already have trust in them, they've been sharing their financials with you for a long time, so there are a lot fewer question marks, and so that can be kind of a shortcut to a merger that could then create a bigger company that might command a bigger multiple on the private equity market. And I'm feeling so much less lonely in my whitewash universe than I did just minutes ago.
Yeah. Well, we didn't want you to seem too alone over there, so we've decided to join you for a few minutes in the angelic world of the near afterlife. And Mike's joining in the fun too.
I activated the Logitech Bright Light, and this seemed like the perfect color temperature for my body.
So I would just encourage our audio audience, if you've never watched this podcast on video before, go to the Channel Pro Network channel on YouTube, look up episode 237, go way towards the end, like the last 10-15 minutes of the show, and tune in, because you're going to want to see what you're looking at right now. And if you go early, just watch any random stretch earlier in the show. You'll understand why Matt and Mike are helpfully making sure I'm not an outlier anymore.
What would have been really good, Rich, I look so weird when I talk right now, but what would have been really good, Rich, is if as we did this, you corrected your light and you look good. That would have been even better.
Oh, that'd be awesome. We'll stick in our whitewashed world here for I'm gonna turn it off here in a second, but I will do that the next time the camera is not on me. But Rich, we got a couple minutes left. I'd like to get in a quick game, and one of the games that we've been playing lately is Versus, is what I'm calling it now, and that's a game where we kind of find something of interest to our guest, and we pit various things against each other, and to see where the guest's favorite might lie in certain decisions. We've done it with breakfast cereals on the last show. We've done it with junk food. You never know what we're gonna do. But Rich, this time we're gonna pit Mike's worlds. I guess I can't handle looking at myself like this. It's really, really funny. We're gonna pit Mike's worlds against each other, and we are going to we're going to pick various characters from not only the Marvel universe, but DC and Star Wars, and pit them against each other and see where Mike's true favorites are. But he already said Spider-Man's his favorite. So we're not well, actually, we could do that one, because we could pit it against a Star Wars character and see where he comes out. And that might be interesting. So Rich, I think you could probably kick us off with 2 characters that you know from those universes.
Well, let's see. Who do I know? How about Captain America versus Iron Man?
That's tough. They're over there. I got Captain America and Iron Man. Iron Man, Tony Stark. We're going with Tony.
All right, Iron Man stays in. So now let's try Iron Man versus Batman.
Iron Man. Batman. He's not even a hero.
You can hear the DC world disgusts me. All right, Iron Man.
Don't get me wrong. The movies are amazing, like the Christopher Nolan movies, the Joker. They're amazing, but come on, he's not a real hero. Iron Man. I guess Iron Man is not a real hero either. He's got a suit, but he's so smart.
He is smart. He is smart, and he wrote an AI that's actually functional and useful, which is pretty interesting.
And he became alive, and that's another story.
That is another story. All right. Let's try. Rich, you want to do one?
Well, one kind of popped into my head, but if he swept Batman aside so quickly, I don't know if. And what did we decide about Star Wars? Is that
you could do Star Wars? Go for it.
Yep, we can put Star Wars in there.
And if I do, is it characters or like individual films from the?
No, I'd be characters.
Okay, so Iron Man versus Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
Ooh, Obi-Wan trumps Iron Man. All right.
I'm keeping my list here. Hold on. We got my brackets. You got to make sure you put these up.
All right. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus
You went mute.
Oh, yep, I did go mute. Obi-Wan Kenobi. I meant to pin myself. We're having like tons of problems with Zoom today, folks. I'm sorry. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Thor.
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan.
But don't ask my daughter. She would have went Thor. Thor is her favorite character.
All right, Rich.
Well, we know who the favorite is, but that was in the comic book world. Now it's like Star Wars versus comic books. I think we have to wrap it up with Obi-Wan versus Spider-Man.
Yeah, all right. So now you got a tough one. I think I'm gonna go back with Obi-Wan. I think in my world, I think they're both like. You got Obi-Wan, who's my favorite Star Wars. You got Spider-Man, who's my favorite MCU. If I was to put them together and I needed someone to really help me, I think I'm going for Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. All right. I'm gonna try to trip you up. I'm gonna throw a villain in here. Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul.
Obi-Wan. Darth Maul is amazing, especially if you get into the cartoons and Clone Wars and Rebels. But I'm going Obi.
All right, Rich. Can you think of something that'll beat Obi-Wan?
Gosh almighty. Obi-Wan versus Han Solo.
Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. All right. Now the ultimate. Obi-Wan versus Baby Yoda.
Oh, Baby Yoda for sure.
Baby Yoda wins. Baby Yoda wins.
Who doesn't want Grogu? He's fun.
Grogu is always the ultimate winner. Never put him down.
He's up there.
Yeah, he's just up there. I saw him up there on top.
And in my house, we have the life-size one of him.
Oh, that's so cool.
The life-size ones are much cheaper since they're not that big. I really want to order the life-size Yoda, but my wife has kind of put a stop to that.
Yeah, I was thinking about going Darth Vader, but I was figuring that if I threw Baby Yoda at you, that Baby Yoda would win. So, awesome stuff. Lots of fun. Thank you for playing along with that. I know Rich, we don't have a lot of time left. We got some hard stops coming up. Rich, if you can, real quick, tell us what we might have missed and what might be coming up.
Well, you know what? It's a little bit easier than usual to tell you what you might have missed. We're on our summer schedule with James Gaskins, in case you missed it, column. So this is an off week, but we will have a 2-week summary of stuff you might have missed coming up a week from today, a week from Friday. Coming up next week, VMworld's or the VMware's event, formerly known as VMworld, now known as VMworld Explore, takes place in San Francisco, face to face. There's going to be some news from that show, a little bit of cloud management news I can't disclose yet, but stay tuned.
Sounds interesting and exciting nonetheless. Cool. So big thanks to Mike Bloomfield, president and CEO of Tekie Geek, President Geek or Head Geek or whatever you, what did you say you call yourself over there?
It's the Head Geek.
Head Geek.
Oh, well, it depends. It changes on the day. So it depends what comes out of my mouth. President Geek, someone want to be like official. Head Geek to most people, IT superhero. It changes.
I love it. And it's great stuff. And for those who might want to learn a little bit more about you, get in touch with you, network with you, where can they go? How can they find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, search for Mike Bloomfield, Tekie Geek. Find me at techiegeek.com. You could submit a contact us saying Facebook, we are Tekie Geek, Instagram as well. And happy to answer any questions. And if really rather not talk IT, if you want to talk Marvel, you want to talk the new Andor show coming out, the new Game of Thrones, House of Dragons we were watching, really reach out to me. I love talking about that even more.
Awesome. Well, we hope folks do that. And a big thank you for coming on. I hope you had a good time.
I always have a good time. I hope we don't have to wait another year and a half for me to come back, but maybe I'll get bumped to the B list the next time.
Agreed. It should never be that long. And we'd love to have you back again, of course. And hopefully we'll see you at a future ChannelPro event in person. I'd like to see and hang out with you again. Well, that is going to wrap up episode 200 and what are we on? 37 now, I think is the number that I said. Folks, if you want to subscribe to the podcast, that's the best way to kind of keep in touch when we get new episodes out, which is usually every week. We won't do one usually if we're out in events, which is not next week. There will be a show next week. There will not be a one the week after that. So best way to get the shows, subscribe anywhere podcasts are. If you like to watch, go to YouTube, subscribe to the ChannelPro Network channel there on YouTube, hit the subscribe, the like button, the bell, leave a comment. Those are always very helpful as well. And we appreciate your support there. And of course, go to channelpronetwork.com each and every day. Set it as your homepage. There you'll find the latest articles, news, white papers, downloads, resources, all kinds of great information that'll not only keep you on top of what's going on in this crazy industry, but also give you some sound business advice to make your business better, hire the right people, all kinds of stuff to run your business better and make more money. That's what it's all about. So go there and do that as well. And of course, we thank you all for tuning in this week, and we will catch you all next week. See you then.